ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਰਾਈਟ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਸਟੀਫਨ ਹਾਰਪਰ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਏਗੀ. Prime Minister, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So how's the election campaign going?
Well, you never know for sure until the votes are actually counted. But look, I think the Canadians understand the central issue. The big issue of this campaign is our economy. Canada has done reasonably well in a very fragile, a very challenged global economy the last few years. But how are we going to keep doing well? The other parties say by going on a spending binge of tens of billions of dollars, raising people's taxes, borrowing money to pay for it. We say that we'll keep creating jobs, keep moving our country forward by spending things we can afford, by giving benefits directly to families, cutting some taxes, balancing our budget, and making sure we do important measures like the big Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal, making sure we're expanding our markets, keeping our budgets balanced, and delivering benefits that we can actually afford for people.
Are you planning to keep our economy strong while the rest of the world is suffering? There's a lot of instability there in the global markets.
Well, look, we have some advantages other countries don't have. We have been able to balance our budget. So many developed countries, you look around the world and they're swimming in debt. They can't get their economies moving because to balance their budgets or to bring their spending under control, they've got to constantly be doing cutbacks and raising taxes. In Canada, we're able to lower taxes. We just increased the child care benefit for Canadian parents. We brought income splitting in for families. We're bringing in a home renovation tax credit for people who own their houses in this country. We're giving a special financial benefit to widowed and single seniors. And these are all things we can afford to do. Our budget is balanced. So we know that we can deliver these things to people. We won't have to do cuts. We can actually pay for them. I look at the Liberal Party, Mr. Trudeau. He's promising all of these extra things, but first he's going to take away the benefits we have. Take away income split, take away child care, the universal child care benefit, take away the expansions we've made to the tax-free savings accounts. Even after he does all that, his budget is still in deficit, which means in the future he's going to have to take some things away. We're able to deliver things to families that they can actually keep. We're able to make investments in our automobile sector, in innovation, in immigration, in training. We're able to make investments we can actually afford. And that's why you see Canada's economy has over the years been doing better, and why we think the prospects are better if we stay on a path of solid financial management.
Recently, Canada has signed the TPP deal.
Right.
How do you think it will impact our job market and our local industries?
I think over time it'll have an enormous impact. This has always been a trading economy, always been a trading country. And if you look, really the most stable, best paying jobs over a long period of time are those where we're able to export. This trade deal, combined with what we did in the European Union, combined with what we did obviously in the Americas with NAFTA and other trade agreements, is going to give Canadian businesses and Canadian workers almost tariff-free access to 2/3 of the global economy. Means it'll be one of the best places in the world to locate a global business. Other countries are going to be trying to get into the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So look, if you look in BC, this is our Pacific province, right? This is the province that's most to gain from Pacific trade. You look in this province, our foresters, our farmers, our fishermen, our industrial sectors, our services, our financial services, all those sectors are wanting to see this deal go through. And so that's why it's a big step forward for this country. We're also negotiating with a couple of other places. We're still negotiating with India, and I hope we'll actually be able to move that forward as well.
As far as protecting Canadians, there's a lot of crime. How are you going to combat crime in the event you're elected again? Do you have a plan in place in order to combat crime and Canadian safety?
Well, we've spent a lot of the last 10 years bringing in laws to really crack down on crime in this country. Make sure, look, we try and rehabilitate people. We have programs to try and prevent youth from getting into crime. But it's also important that when people commit serious crime, that they actually pay for it with mandatory prison time. One of the first things we're going to do is make sure, and we're going to bring forward new legislation, make sure we keep mandatory prison sentences, for example, for gun crimes, people who use guns to commit crimes. We're going to be toughening what we call the life means life provisions. When you're actually get a life sentence for a very serious murder, they actually serve life in prison. We're bringing in additional measures to crack down on drug traffickers, to crack down on gang recruiters. These are the kinds of things we have to keep doing. This has really differentiated us from the NDP and Liberals. They have opposed all of the tougher measures on crime. They have a very different view of the criminal justice system. They think it's really about the welfare of the criminal. In our view, it's about law-abiding citizens, about protecting families, about making sure victims are taken care of.
Prime Minister, recently you have made a lot of changes into the Immigration Act. Your most approachable Minister, Jason Kenney, has made some changes. And family reunification is very important for South Asian communities. So what do you take on it? Are we expecting some more changes?
Well, we'll keep trying to reform our system. When we took office, we inherited a backlog from the Liberals of 800,000 applications. We've cut that in half. We've cut the processing times in half. We're the first government in Canadian history that did not cut immigration when we had a recession. Every Liberal government in the past 50 years has cut immigration after it came to office. The previous Liberal government cut family reunification by some over 40% when they came to office in the 1990s. We've increased it by some 25%. You look at family reunification numbers from India, 3 times under our government what they were under the previous government. So look, we'll continue to try working in our system, bringing forward reforms. Our view is that immigration is critical to the long-term economic success of this country. And obviously, we want to see the strong families and the strong family values of our Indo-Canadians and other Canadian communities reinforced by our immigration system.
You're probably the first Prime Minister that has built a bridge between India and Canada economically. I went on a trip with you.
We did.
So what are the achievements, what progress Canada has made in order to make deals with India?
As you know, before we came to office, we had a deep freeze of relations with India for almost 30 years. We won't revisit why that was. It was something that things that happened under Mr. Trudeau's father way back in the 1970s. But this government has made it a priority to rejuvenate relations with India. It's one of the reasons Prime Minister Modi, we had the first standalone visit by any Prime Minister of this country in almost 40 years in the past year. We've signed a social security agreement with India. We've signed a nuclear cooperation agreement. We've moved forward on a number of fronts. Signed, last time I was there, a record number of trade deals. We're negotiating for a foreign investment promotion and protection agreement, also negotiating on free trade arrangements as well. This is obviously this is an Indian government with which this government has established very good relations. Our government was one of the first Western countries to establish, in fact, just about the only Western country to establish relations with Prime Minister Modi when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. So we think it'll serve us very well as we move forward on the big economic agenda we want to move forward with India.
South Asian community, particularly Sikhs, are very actively participating into the Canadian democracy.
Always, yeah.
And what is your message to them, and what would you like to say in closing?
Sure. Look, I think it's obviously not just the same pitch, Harjinder, that I have to all Canadians, the importance of having a solid economic plan based on opening markets, based on balancing budgets, based on keeping people's taxes down, making sure people can keep the family benefits we're delivering. It's also based on sharing values. The other parties are talking about legalizing marijuana, making it easier for our children to get drug injection sites in neighborhoods, legalizing prostitution. These are not the values that we think Indo-Canadians share. They're not conservative values. So we want to make sure we move forward our country not just on a solid economic plan, but also that we have values that reflect the family values and the concerns of Indo-Canadians and the broader range of Canadian society.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate
me.
that.